Hi everyone, welcome to Women Work Your Faith. My name is Sylvia Johnson, and today I am doing a Sunday School review for Sunday, June the 26th. The subject for today's lesson is the heart of the law. Our Bible basis comes from Deuteronomy, the 10th chapter, the 12th through the 22nd verse, and also the 16th chapter, the 18th through the 20th verse. Our Bible truth: God's love is unconditional and He is always just. Our memory verse: And now, Israel, what doth the Lord thy God require of thee, but to fear the Lord thy God, to walk in all his ways, and to love him, and to serve the Lord thy God with all thy heart and with all thy soul, to keep the commandments of the Lord and his statutes, which I command thee this day for thy good. And that comes from Deuteronomy, the 10th chapter, the 12th and the 13th verse. And that's the King James Version. In this lesson today, Moses is speaking, and he is speaking to the children of Israel. Now, Moses has been their leader the entire time that they were in the wilderness, and now we're coming to the point where that leadership is going to transition. They are going to cross over into the land of promise, but Moses is going to remain behind. And he is giving them a reiteration of the law and its purpose and what they need to do in their pursuit of the promise that God has given them. And so in the verses in chapter just before this, Moses has recounted some of the history of what has happened while they were in the wilderness. And it's not necessarily good history, right? He's not sharing pleasant family memories. He's talking about the trials that they have faced due to their own behavior. Due to their disobedience and lack of reverence for God. And so he is using that history as a tool for application so that they understand why they need to be different moving forward. And so let's just piece that out a little bit. Fear the Lord, reverence. Your awe, your recognition of God as being holy and sanctified, set apart, that he is not one of us. You know, God is not your neighbor, your best friend. You handle him differently because of who he is. Next, you walk in all his ways. And so my behavior, my actions should be in line with what he has stipulated I should do. And it doesn't say some of the times or every now and then. It says all his ways. And his ways are the ways that he has laid out for them are right and good. And so I need to reverence who he is, and I need to constantly be acting and working in a way that he has laid out as right and good, which Moses has given them because God provided it through the law. And it says, and serve the Lord thy God with all thy heart and with all thy soul. And it's very interesting if you think about it. If I'm walking in all your ways, you would think by default that I'm serving you, right? But it says with all your heart and all your soul. So not only am I just doing something, right, that you stipulated that I need to do, but I desire to do it. It is my want. My innermost being is in this. Not just my hands and my feet, my outward expression and actions, but my innermost being is behind this. So at the core of who I am, I serve you. Not just, you ever see a child, and I've done it. Your mother, your father told you to do something and you huffing and puffing and stomping every step of the way. That is not the service that God requires, okay? So in that situation, yeah, I'm a walking in the way, sort of, kind of, maybe. But no, with all my heart, with all my soul. So it's not just the action itself that matters. It's my intentions, my thoughts, my feelings, my goals, my perceptions, my reasoning. All of that should be behind my actions, which are the outward expression. And so Moses tells the people to keep the commandments and the statutes And our Sunday school book says that the commandments are the basic general principle, and the statutes are how you apply those in different situations. And so, not just the rule itself, but how this is carried out from person to person, from home to home, from town to town, or community to community. All of these need to be recognized and honored consistently in the way of the Lord. And I like how he says, for thy good. And so it really brings together what God wants from them. I want you to live how I have called you to live, because it will benefit you. And as we're reading this, we realize that God's desire, his focus is on his people. And what he has given them in the law is a way for them to come from where they were, and not just physically where they were, because they were traveling from captivity to glory in the land of the promise, but who they were with all their hearts and all their soul. Because at that moment they were kind of shady in them parts, right? They were corrupt people. They were stiff-necked is what Moses used to describe them. They were hard-hearted. They were disobedient. They were rebellious. And so not only is God taking them physically from point A to point B, but he's moving them spiritually. And so what they don't understand at this point is these laws that they are given is supposed to help them in that move physically and spiritually to get from point A to point B. From there, Moses tells them that the heavens, the earth, everything belongs to God. But he chose them as a people because he looked favorably on their ancestors, and now they are called to him. And then he tells them, so circumcise your heart. And what does he mean by that? And so if I am cutting or peeling back the layers of my heart, I am removing what is the outer covering, right? And so oftentimes you hear in the word, or even now when you talk about people, they're hard-hearted, right? That means that their heart is not penetrable. What you're trying to get through to them cannot get through. And so if you envision this outer protective shell, right? When people are trying to guard their heart, they don't want you to get through, right? They don't want you to change them. They don't want you to alter their thinking and their beliefs, their values. You see a lot of that today. And what Moses is pointing out to the people is that they were like that too. You need to circumcise that. You need to cut it off, peel it back, and let the Lord in, so that you can become what he has called you to be. Remember, I said they were making two journeys simultaneously. They were moving physically and they were moving spiritually. However, they also spent 40 years in the wilderness going in circles on both journeys because they weren't making progress. And so Moses was telling them, circumcise your heart. Peel that back. Change how you have this outer protective covering that is useless and is not helping you, and allow the Lord in so that you can be and do the things that he wants you to do. And then he speaks to us about who this God is. God of gods, Lord of lords. He is great. He is mighty. He is terrible. And then he starts to talk about his character. And so he's describing this fearsome entity, right? But then he starts to talk about his character. And he says he rewardeth not persons, nor taketh reward. And so God's got integrity. It doesn't seem to make sense when we read it in that text. But the words, what they mean is he does not show favoritism and he cannot be bought. Okay? He executes judgment. That means he makes just decisions on behalf of the people who are undermined, oppressed, or overlooked in society. Because he says the fatherless, the widow, and the stranger. The Lord makes just decisions for those people. So you have this fearsome, all-powerful entity who owns all the world. But he has integrity and compassion and justice. And he didn't have to, right? Because it's all his anyway. He can do what he wants. But he chooses to have integrity, to have justice, and to have compassion on not just his people, but people. And this is a very important point to me, and this is what I've really been focusing on as Moses is teaching, lecturing, talking to them. I'm looking at the character of God and I'm looking at the character of people, and I am seeing that the purpose of this law is to bring this closer together. Because right now you have a God who is just, a God who has compassion, a God who has all power, a God who is in sovereign authority. But you have people who have nothing, who are rebellious and stiff-necked and hard-hearted. And God is calling them to be like him. And that right here is, what is the lesson? The heart of the law. The children of Israel understood the way of the stranger because they had lived in Egypt for, I think, 400 years as strangers. They were there for what should have been a short time and stayed, and that's how they ended up in oppression. And so because of their situation, they should have been able to show love and compassion to the stranger, but we know later on they don't choose to do that. And again, that shows us the integrity and justice that the Lord himself displays, because he considered those people when he does not have to, right? No one is ever going to be able to pull him into captivity or to oppress him. Yet, he still looks low and sees those who are in those situations and feels great compassion and concern for them and makes ways for them to get free or to be provided for. And what he is saying is those who are called to be his people should do the same. So Moses finishes this section and reminds them again, you need to fear the Lord. You need to have reverence and awe of him and only him. You don't serve anyone else. And he tells them to cleave to him. And that's a word that we also see in the Bible describing the union between man and wife, right? And so the word cleave, follow close, okay? Be joined, catch by pursuit, or pursue hard. And so that means my connection with God is not flimsy. My joining, my union with him, it's not willy-nilly and it ain't hanging on by a thread. If I am cleaving to something, I'm about to be shook, okay? And excuse my bad language, but I just need to emphasize how tight this hold ought to be. If any of you have ever had a dog, if you had a good dog, dogs cleave. You get up and leave the room, he coming, okay? You walk down the street, he coming. If you go in the backyard, he's coming. You got about 0.5 seconds for him to realize you moved, and he right behind you. He's not gonna be shook. That dog can find you 24/7. We ought to be that way about the Lord, okay? When the Lord moves, we need to be like, I'm with you, okay? And it's the same thing that Moses is telling them here. If you are cleaving to something, I am constantly with you. I am constantly behind you or next to you or around you. We ought not be separated. You should never look up and I'll not be there. And so Moses is telling them, him only. This is not only should you love and honor and reverence him this way, but only him. There should be no other. Remember that God did all this. And so Moses closes up this section and reminds them that God is your praise. God is the one who deserves the honor and the recognition and the glory for all of this. He has done all of these things. And he took your fathers who were down in Egypt, and now with it says 10 score persons, right? Y'all didn't have that many, but now you are more than the stars of heaven. And so God looked at your people your ancestors, when they went into Egypt, you had this many, okay, 10 score, that's 10 times 20. And now you've come out and you're more than all the stars in heaven. You cannot be counted. And God is the one who gets the glory for that, because he did that in all of these things that I've recanted to you about our time in the wilderness. All of these miraculous works, no one but him. When they are establishing judges and officers over the people, because you got a lot of people, they need some order, right? And so he is setting things in order so that these people can govern themselves efficiently. And he tells them again, the Lord gives you these cities, and you're going to put judges and officers at the gate. Y'all need to watch how you handle people. And he says you shouldn't wrest judgment, okay? You don't bend or flex justice. You don't twist it. You don't manipulate it, okay? And it says don't take a gift. Now, a gift sounds like a good thing, but really it's a bribe. I should not be paid for doing right. I should do right because it's right. I should not be paid for helping the needy. I should help the needy because they need it. And so when you start to take gifts, or you start to expect things, and this is counterintuitive to popular culture today, but when you start to expect to be paid for your services, you're not serving anymore. And what people tend to not understand is that your repayment is how you improve the world around you. And if you pour out into it, good comes back. Now, we want our good right here, right now. And so he's telling them a gift blinds the eyes of the wise and perverts the words of the righteous. It blinds your eyes. I can't see the right thing to do because now I'm focused on getting that gift. And so where I would have been focused on doing what needs to be done, now I'm trying to see how do I get that instead of how do I get it done correctly. And then it says it perverts the words, right? And that I can't, you've lost your integrity. Remember how I said that God has integrity even though he has all power? Well, you were righteous, meaning you were in right standing. But now people are looking at you funny because they know you can be bought. And so your words aren't as clean as they used to be. We don't trust you anymore. And so what Moses is teaching them here is how to maintain their integrity. God does the same thing with us. He has commandments to this day. He has statutes to this day. And his law is right and good. Now, we don't follow the law the way that the children of Israel do. And we don't keep that law because we have a new covenant in Jesus. However, what God requires for us is still the same. And it's like, wait a minute, what do you mean? Well, think about it. What does he require? Reverence God, right? Fear the Lord, to walk in his ways, to love him, to serve him with all your heart and all your soul, and to keep his commandments and statutes, because it's for my good. All of that is still required of us. And so what we need to do as believers is to learn of him so that we understand what are his commandments, what are his statutes, what does he require of me? And we need to remember that it is important that God desires for us to follow that. So I went a little bit longer than I planned to, but those are the points in this lesson that I am really focusing on. I'd like to hear down in the comments what your questions or thoughts are regarding this lesson, or how do you feel when you read the book of Deuteronomy? Does it challenge you a little bit? Anyway, I'd love some dialogue. So if you enjoyed this lesson, please remember to like, share, comment, and all those things that YouTube people say. But come back and join us again and interact. I really like hearing and seeing that people are blessed by what we've done. So make sure you study the lesson. Thank you for supporting us, and we will see you in Sunday school. Be blessed.